Remember Mesut Ozil? I'm joking. I'm not cheeky enough to do an entry of my Remember Them series on him just yet, but in going through my catalog, I saw that I last covered his situation at Arsenal going on almost 2 years ago now, and simultaneously both a lot and not much have happened since then. By the way, I'm Adrian. Thanks for joining me for this video, and today we'll be examining just what on earth is happening with Mesut Ozil and Arsenal, given that he hasn't played since March now. The recent admissions of the mistake by the German FA in regard to his international retirement got me thinking about Ozil once again, and how despite a coaching change and a brief flash of optimism, he's been sent back to the Shadowlands within the Arsenal setup. And hey, even if you've been banished to the Shadowlands, you can still keep up with Ozil, Arsenal, and all things football with OneFootball's free app, linked below. OneFootball provides the fastest breaking news and updates about the teams, players, and competitions you care about with their custom-tailored news feeds, original articles, transfer rumor raters and trackers, match tickers and live match updates, highlights, and other videos, and so much more can all be found within the app. And you can get a free download on iOS or Android by using the link below. Thanks for sponsoring this video, OneFootball, and for supporting an independent creator such as myself. All right, to Ozil. With Emery leaving, I think that many of those that believed there was still a great player in Mesut Ozil, a player that could add a lot of quality to this faltering team, held some hope that a fresh start under Arteta is exactly what he needed. Looking back to the insane Carabao Cup match against Liverpool in October, the 5-5 match in which Ozil put in a good performance, the possibility of him being reinvigorated was always there. Even Emery saw it, as Ozil started every Premier League match for Arsenal from that cup match until Emery's sacking. Freddie Ljungberg, as caretaker, continued to hand him Premier League starts as well. When Mikel Arteta came in, even he continued to start Ozil, and it seemed as though Arsenal would finally start to get at least some on-field value out of the £350,000 per week player. He started in 10 matches consecutively under Mikel Arteta, offering up 1 goal and 1 assist. But following the enforced break due to the pandemic, we never saw Ozil again, besides a couple of occasions in which, well, he only made it as far as the substitutes bench. Perhaps Ozil didn't put the work in during the quarantine in order to stay fit, or perhaps the fact that he didn't act within the best interests of the club played a role in Arteta dropping him. On April 15th, 2020, it was announced that the Arsenal players had rejected a proposal from the club to take a pay cut in order to lessen the financial impact the pandemic was having on the club. And it was announced by local media, not the club itself. But just 5 days later, it was announced that all but 3 players had accepted a 12.5% temporary wage reduction, and yes, Mesut Ozil was one of those 3 players. The optics of this did no favors to Mesut Ozil, as at £350,000 per week, that means that Ozil would still be taking home £306,000 per week. Ozil has done plenty of charitable work throughout his career. As noted by The Independent, he used his wedding with wife Amin to pay for 1,000 children to have life-changing surgery, as well as providing food for 100,000 homeless people at 16 refugee camps and shelters in Turkey and Syria. Ozil also used his 2014 World Cup winnings to fund surgery for 23 Brazilian children to have operations at a cost of £240,000. And so it came as a surprise that he rejected the pay cut. In the opinion of some, it came off as spiteful towards the club, as there has clearly been a division between Ozil and the club, as he has never had any interest in leaving and looked to see out his contract whether he is playing or not. A bit of a Gareth Bale and Real Madrid situation prior, of course, to his loan to Tottenham. Now, the players that accepted the cut did so with the understanding that this would ensure no staff would get laid off. But come early August, Arsenal announced that 55 staff had been let go, and the players were extremely unhappy. Ozil spoke to The Athletic about his decision in the aftermath, and he said, quote, "We needed more information and many questions were unanswered. Everyone was fine with the deferral while there was so much uncertainty. I would have been okay to take a bigger share, and then a cut if required, once the football and financial outlook was clearer. But we were rushed into it without proper consultation. For anyone in this situation, you have a right to know everything, to understand why it is happening and where the money is going. But we didn't get enough details. We just had to give a decision. It was far too quick for something so important, and there was a lot of pressure." Warning, this is just my opinion, so feel free to ignore me right now. And while I can understand that he was certainly entitled to having more information and the assurances that the staff would 100% not be let go, it does seem a little bit hard to sympathize with him, given that he would still be taking home £306,000 per week, more than enough to get by, even if, as he says, he has other commitments to charities in Turkey and Germany. To be fair to him, his agent stated he would have been fine with a deferral, but Arsenal demanded a pay cut. But anyways, again, that's just my opinion. And Ozil went on saying, quote, "People who know me know exactly how generous I am, and as far as I'm aware, I was not the only player who rejected the cut in the end, but only my name came out. I guess that's because it is me, and people have been trying for 2 years to destroy me, to make me unhappy, to push an agenda they hope will turn the supporters against me and paint a picture that is not true. Possibly the decision affected my chances on the pitch, I don't know, but I'm not afraid to stand up for what I feel is right. And when you see what has happened now with the jobs, maybe I was." Yeah, maybe he was right, because as mentioned before, Arsenal went ahead and fired those 55 staff members despite benefiting somewhat from the pay cut that the majority of playing and coaching staff had agreed to take on. So you can understand why the Arsenal players would have been so angry. This is me speculating, of course, because Arteta hasn't commented on Ozil's statement about this, but ultimately, this seems to have been the final nail in Ozil's coffin. It seems as though Arteta has seen Ozil's unwillingness to give up some salary for the good of the club as the straw that broke the camel's back. Or perhaps Arteta has been pressured by the board members to drop him because of it. We don't know. But it gets even stickier when you fast forward 4 months from April and the staff were let go despite the pay cut. Ozil's demands of having more information and assurances as to how the money was going to be spent don't seem unreasonable. If there was no promise that staff would not be let go and there was a high chance they would be let go despite the pay cut, then it is fair to ask what the point of the pay cut is exactly, what exactly that money was going to do within the club. Now, you could say that he could do it for the love of the club, but with how he has been iced out, in his opinion, it's also fair to ask why he owes the club anything, besides the massive wages that they ultimately agreed to pay him. And so again, going into a new season would normally fill some fans with, a bit of optimism that a player that previously had a poor relationship with the club can start fresh. But with Mesut Ozil and how long this scenario has been going on for, optimism is in short supply. And so the question of Ozil just leaving the club for the good of everyone always comes up. In speaking to David Ornstein about this situation, Ozil said, quote, "It's hard. When a player wants to leave and the club says no, the player must accept it unless they find a solution together. So when a club wants a player to leave and the player says no, the club must accept it unless a solution can be found together. I don't want to leave, so that's it. In 2018, I had plenty of options that would have earned me far more money as a free agent, but I committed myself to Arsenal because this was the club and the fan base I wanted to play for. In that sense, nothing has changed." And while he may still want to play for the club and continues to train, there's clearly something going on behind the scenes that we are not aware of. There's clearly a bigger disconnect that Arteta, as a professional, isn't telling us about. Why? For my money, it's the pay cut thing, and the board has put pressure on Arteta to not play him anymore. But again, speculation from me. We haven't seen Ozil take to the pitch since March 7th, prior to the pandemic and all of the to pay cut or not to pay cut controversies. And so during the 2021 season, he hasn't even been called into the matchday squad on one occasion for Arsenal. Last season, Unai Emery gave him a chance in the Carabao Cup, and I personally half expected Arteta to do the same when Arsenal took on Leicester on September 23rd. But just as the sun sets in the west, another matchday program with Ozil's name nowhere to be seen. It does call into question whether or not Ozil is being completely truthful with some of the statements he has made in various interviews recently, no less the interview I've referenced with David Ornstein. He certainly is saying all of the right things like how he is training as hard as ever in his final year because he wants to help Arsenal. He's not going to rest on his laurels, even though he is in the final year of his contract, and he's still doing charitable work in the North London community. All of this makes it even more interesting when considering the fact that this is 2 managers in a row now that have not seen eye to eye with Ozil. That does indeed speak to a deeper issue. Yes, he's a luxury player, but to not even have him make the squad for a player of his, former stature now, It is a surprise. To be fair to him, he has never said that he wants to leave, and he has always maintained that he wants to help Arsenal, and so his actions that we, the public, don't see at Arsenal's training ground must belie this somehow, unless of course it is just the fact that he didn't take the pay cut. At this point, Arteta is close to his breaking point when it comes to answering questions surrounding Mesut Ozil, understandably so. His recent answer after the Leicester match being, quote, "We are picking the players we believe are best for each game." That's basically the common answer from him at this point. And at this point, the manager hasn't come across a match in which he apparently sees the German World Cup winner as a fit for over 6 months now. And at this point, besides an absolute injury crisis, it feels as though we may not see him again if Arteta can help it. I mean, before they even played their FA Cup final, which they won, they gave Mesut Ozil permission to go on vacation. That says a lot. And now I ask you, where do you stand on this situation? Do you feel that Arsenal are mismanaging this entire thing and are not getting their money's worth by leaving him at home? Or do you not have any sympathy for the man who's making £350,000 per week to sit at home? Regardless, it's a bizarre Bale-esque situation that Arsenal have found themselves in, but one way or another, it will come to an end after this season. If you enjoyed this video and want to find your way back to the channel easier in the future, then be sure to hit subscribe. But other than that, I thank you for spending your valuable time with me. My name is Adrian, and I hope to see you in the next video. Ciao!